Hi violists! Today we're working on Antigone. This piece is in D minor, but as you maybe browse through the music, you'll see that we actually have a lot of accidentals on top of the B flat. So that's something we have to pay close attention to as we work on it. Now let's take a look at, let's start from the beginning. So we're starting on the second beat, but we have an up bow and the fortissimo at the same time. So in order to have the depth and the sound as we play, we have to make sure that we're putting the weight of our right arm into the string. So imagine that you're actually digging into the string. So slow motion we're looking like I'm making a little bit of this U shape on each note, so we have that kind of depth in the sound. And then the second measure, we the third beat and the fourth beat, we have double stops. So in order to play two strings at the same time, again you have to find the angle with your elbow, find where you can have the bow placed on both strings, and then when you pull, you can produce both strings in one bow. Now looking at measure 6, we have a little bit of the melody here. So it's the same concept as the beginning, where you have to put in the weight of your arm. Instead of pressing it, we have to dig into it and pull the string in order to create, the full and more rounded fortissimo. Now take a look at measure 17. We have a tricky rhythm here. On the second beat, you're playing on the off beat of the second beat. So you're playing in the second half of the second beat. When I count, I'll do it slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So make sure that you have that in mind when you play this measure. Now starting from measure 18, we have 3 lines of very fast 16 notes. So I'll play one measure first. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this kind of motion in your right hand, so you can see you have to unlock your wrist a little bit. So it has this kind of flexibility in it, in order to play fast notes without getting too busy in your arm. See, if I lock my wrist, my 16 note will look like I'm not as flexible in my hand. So that's for the right hand part. In the left hand, it's actually not as complicated as it seems. You're only changing note on every 8th note. So your right hand plays 2 notes and then your left hand change a note. So slow motion will be a way to practice it. Just simplify it into all 8th notes. So you'll practice it slowly. When your left hand is used to the motion, add in the right hand. And then slowly build it up. Starting from measure 24, you have all double stops here. But this is, again, it's not as complicated as it looks like. You're only pressing down on one string and the other string remains as an open string. So for example, in the first measure, you only have to take care of the A string. That's where you're playing on the A string. And then you add in the open D string and then find the angle with your elbow where you can touch both strings at the same time. That's how you play double stops, and your left hand just worry about on the A string. And then in measure 25, you have one note on the G string where you're pressing down the A, and then an open D string. So that's a new angle you have to find from A and D to G and D. And then back to A and D. And then it repeats afterwards. Looking at measure 31, we have all fast 16 notes here again. So let me play through it once first. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the third beat connected to the fourth beat, we have a C sharp and then F. That's a very wide interval for your left hand, so make sure that your fingers stretched out. It's an augmented fourth, so it's very wide apart. Mark it in your music or just have it in mind so when you're getting close to it, you know to prepare for it. Now starting from measure 36, a lot of accidentals are coming up in a very short period of time for like 3 measures. So let's come up with the easier fingering that can help with, these fast changing accidentals. So starting from measure 36, we have E flat, C, and then 37 we have C sharp. And in this case, let's just put down our fourth finger and then back to E. And 37 to 38, you're connecting your first finger E to first finger on D sharp. And then F sharp coming up, let's just put down the third finger. So we can use the second finger for the C that's coming up. And F sharp and C are very close to each other. That's how we get a diminished interval. So measure 38 again. 1, 3, 2, 1. Another place where we have tricky fingerings, starting from measure 48, we have B, B flat, G, E. And in this case, use the first finger for your B flat. So your hand doesn't have to move around. If you use 2, 2, it's very likely when you go back to the E, it's not going to be in tune because you're moving position in every note. So use the first finger for all the B flats here. So 48, and then 49. Just don't move your hand. Go back to B and press. 2, 1, 2, 1, open G, and then second finger on the E. Starting from 61, we have a slower tempo. We're going from quarter note equals to 120 to quarter note equals to 60. So it's half the speed. And on top of that, in measure 62, you see there's a mute marked on the music. So that's where you put your mute onto the bridge. So use the rest in measure 61 to prepare the mute on the string, on the bridge. So we can play this whole section muted. That goes on for a while until for tempo 1 in measure 86, you have mute off marked in the music. That's when you move your mute away from the bridge. In the end of measure 105, you see there's a DSL Coda marked in the music. My teacher used to like to call it the little turtle marking. So when you see the turtle marking, we're gonna jump back to measure 22 where you see the marking that looks like F or S, I guess. When you see that, you start from measure 22 and then you play the whole section until you see another turtle marking again, which is in measure 60, the end of measure 60. So after you finish playing measure 60, we're gonna jump to the coda. The coda is in measure 106, so right after the turtle marking, there's the coda mark. That's how this piece is gonna be repeated. So you'll see these markings come up very often, and just remember that when you see turtle, just jump. The whole coda section is pretty much consisted of the concepts that we've talked about before. the double stops, how the slurs connected with the notes. So I'm not gonna go through that again, but just to provide you another fingering that you can consider. In measure 116, the third beat, we have F sharp and E flat. So I would suggest that we use the fourth finger for F sharp and second finger for the E flat because it's a very wide interval and you don't want your hand to be jumping around for the notes. So I'll play through measure 116 slowly. B flat. And then fourth on the F sharp. Second on E flat. Again. That's a more connected fingering that prevents your hand from going out of position, and we're likely to play out of tune because of that. That's it for the breakdown video. This is a really long piece and it has a lot of details in it, so make sure that you break it down to even smaller parts, smaller sections to practice, and then you can watch the play along video to have a better idea of what a whole piece sounds like. Have fun practicing.